Minot.
And I'm Monsignor Charles Minot. Accepting an emotional and physical handicap in a child is a difficult job for parents. Tonight on The Real to Real, we'll meet the DePrince family and learn how they accepted this challenge in love and joy.
Also tonight, we'll travel to South Bend, Indiana, home of the University of Notre Dame, and meet the man who currently holds the hottest head coaching position in the country. In our DABAR segment, Pat Livingston looks at success and failure, and People and Places takes us to a unique community restaurant in Englewood, Colorado.
Striving to achieve full potential is an admirable goal, but for the multiply handicapped, it is even more difficult to attain. The DePrince family from Voorhees, New Jersey, show us how the love and concern evident in their lives makes this even easier to attain.
Out. It's about the fifth time you said that, poor little guy. You ready? Okay, let's see how you look. Oh, super! Wow! Come on.
I've explained to the children that the most handicapping problems are problems of the mind or problems of the soul, where a person has made their own problems because they have been unable to cope with a difficulty in their life. And so many people dislike themselves in the world. And my kids are ahead because they do like themselves. They all have good self-images. They all think that they're great. In our case, we have 3 adopted children and 2 biological children, and it was obvious to me when our first child was very young that something wasn't quite right neurologically. And, he didn't suck right from birth, and he didn't have a grasp reflex. He also was sick constantly and seemed to have some type of a blood disorder.
Adam and Derek, the DePrince's biological children, have neurological difficulties. Robin, an adopted daughter, is mentally retarded. Paula and Michael Noah, also adopted, have blood disorders. Michael Noah is a hearing-impaired child and has vision problems which require careful monitoring. This means a constant round of visits to doctors and hospitals. It means time lost from school for the children, and today it is a checkup at the eye doctors for Adam, Robin, and Michael Noah. For the DePrinces, these inconveniences are a small price to pay for the support and love they find together as a family.
When Michael Noah came in to see me the first time, his ability to fixate and pay attention was notably depressed, and on this visit, both his mother and I were really surprised to find that he was much more aware of his environment, and he seems to have developed maybe a year in about 3 weeks or 4 weeks. I find that if you're friendly and warm to multiple handicapped children, their response is much greater than you would expect, and they actually don't behave that much different than a child who is physically normal.
Michael Noah he's just turned 2, but it's as though he was born 2 months ago when we got him, because when he came to us, he just sat and stared at his hands. He was just crawling, and it was a very poor crawl, and he really just sat on the floor or laid on the floor. And since then, he's learned to crawl really well. Has decided he no longer wants to crawl, and he's starting to walk. He looks at people. He has learned about 12 words. And for a deaf kid with a vision problem, he's really doing beautifully. Robin, who feels good about herself and is proud of her achievements, who has a good self-image, is much better off than a child with 140 IQ who hates themselves to the point where they're suicidal. The children seem to be accepted, and occasionally they'll come up against a rebuff. and they just realize it's an individual case.
Many people might have the idea that children with disabilities, such as some of your children have, should not be promoted to the sacraments. I'm sure you have a different idea altogether about sacramental life.
What are we looking at as a human being? Are we looking at a body and a soul? I was taught that's what a human being is, that combination of body and soul. Do we have to qualify that and say they're only a human being if that body contains a brain that functions above a 95 on a Stanford by Nay? Because I think that anyone who's a combination of body and soul is a human being, and therefore they should be entitled to the sacraments. Even now, Robin, who is only mildly to moderately retarded, I feel that someday Robin probably could marry. I would not like to see Robin have children because I don't think she'd be able to cope with it. It takes an awful lot to hold a marriage together. But I think if she met someone else who were retarded or even not retarded, who fell in love with her, there would be no reason why she shouldn't enter into the sacrament of matrimony.
How you doing, guys? How you doing? Whoa, 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 whoa.
Without the children, I say my life would be extremely boring. I guess I've gotten used to a lot of children, which keeps it really lively. Have to become a little bit of a child yourself. The fact that they're handicapped in relation to myself and how much I have to, what kind of an effort I have to put forth, say after a busy day at work, I think is pretty minimal. I don't think of them as handicapped or with problems. Now, as far as the medical problems, most of that is taken care of by Elaine during the day. She takes them to the doctors and hospitals and this sort of thing. As far as life after the doctor's office, I really don't see any difference. We believe that whatever they want to ultimately do is fine. I want to see the best for each one of them, whatever that may be.
What shall I say to show the way? What games to play with you? The world turns quickly now and changes every mile. What shall I say to show the way? Tomorrow, child, I can't tell you what your life will be. Time will show you roads that I can't see. And if they carry you away from me, then go with love. Whatever travels you may wander through, whatever wonders you may someday do, take my lullaby along with you, and go with love tomorrow, child.
The story of the Prince family is indeed an inspiring one, and it's especially relevant during this Thanksgiving time. It's occasion for us to thank God for all He has done for you and for me. Next up, The Art of Glassblowing on the Expression segment, DABAR with Pat Livingston, and People and Places visits Colorado. Stay with us.
Since I'd been a potter for 11 years, that was good preparation for being a glass blower. Glass is just the most intense and challenging thing I've ever tried. You can capture a fluidity in the glass that you just can't touch in clay. And it's also, glass is the only thing that can capture light. I love the fluidity and the idea of catching a piece, flaring it out, and then at some point it freezes.
It's good to be here at Trinity College, where I went to school 20 years ago. Those were good times for me. But like any experience of school, it had both failure and success. For example, I was elected president of the freshman class, but then the next year, we had a movement to get new kids into office, and I was elected to nothing. I did well on a lot of exams here, but I can remember failing Chaucer. That seems to be the human condition. That sometimes we apply for jobs that we don't get. Sometimes we yell at people we love. Sometimes the gravy lumps. The important thing is, what do you do with that experience? Do you hurt yourself even more with failure? A way to keep perspective for me is to remember a story I'd like to share with you from Little Big Man, where that beautiful character, the old Indian grandfather, has seen all the atrocities to his people from Custer that he can stand, and decides that it is a good day to die. He goes up the mountain with Dustin Hoffman in his best war bonnet, gives a speech to the Great Spirit, and lies down to die. It begins to rain, and the raindrops fall on his face, and gradually you see his eyelids begin to twitch. And then he sits up and he says to Hoffman, "I didn't die, did I?" And he says, "No, grandfather." He says, "Well, sometimes the magic works, and sometimes it doesn't." It's important to know that God does not reject us when we fail. He does not stop loving us because our gravy lumps. In fact, he twinkles at us with that wise look of grandfather and says, "Sometimes the magic works, and sometimes it doesn't."
The St. Thomas More Center in Englewood, Colorado may look like an ordinary parish at first glance, but a closer look tells you it's anything but. What sets this parish apart is the Padre Restaurant, right next door to the church. Once you get inside, another surprise awaits you.
Good evening. You are hungry tonight, you would like something to eat. Welcome to the Padre. Right on here. Got a nice table for you.
This is Father Fred McAllen, who created the Padre Restaurant in 1975. He wanted it to be a friendly place where people in the community could take their families and meet their neighbors.
It's a nice, lovely restaurant, casual. We just like to come back quite often.
Well, we go to Mass on Sunday morning, for instance, and then we come back over here and have breakfast. It's very neat. And I don't have to cook.
I thought it was pretty unique that you can go to a Catholic parish and get a beer.
We came here tonight because last time we were here, the food was so good.
Not only is the food good, but there's plenty of it. And Father McAllen wants to be sure things stay that way. The Padre Restaurant's friendly atmosphere even carries over into the kitchen.
Hi, fellas. Hi, Emmett. How are you doing?
Fine.
How many do you serve tonight?
About 100.
And that means a few more.
Right.
Before the night's over. That's fine. I haven't eaten yet, and I better stop eating these French fries or I won't eat at all.
As soon as he knows everything in the kitchen is going well, Father McCallan is off again. Like any good host, he treats the people as if they were visitors in his own home, running around chatting and making sure everyone is having a good time.
No, I'm from Pittsburgh.
Sorry,
Leon
oh,
Abraham.
good. Glad to
John
meet you.
Crook and his
Glad to meet you, John.
And if you ever happen to visit the Padre restaurant, you might be lucky enough to get there on a night when Father McCallan himself provides the entertainment.
Well, that's the end of everything.
Although the University of Notre Dame is known throughout the world for its academic excellence, its work in the field of social justice, and its strong Catholic presence, every Saturday these accomplishments take a back seat to another Notre Dame tradition, football. This year, the Fighting Irish have a new head coach. His name is Jerry Faust, and his spirit and determination are highly contagious.
Cheer, cheer for old Notre Dame, wake up the echoes cheering her name.
The University of Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana, was founded in 1842 by a young French priest, Father Edward Sorin of the Congregation of Holy Cross. The university has grown from its initial 524 acres and a log cabin in bad repair to a campus of 1,250 acres and 100 buildings. Nationally, Notre Dame is recognized for its fine academic achievements. But there is another dimension to the university, a tradition that does not seem to die, the tradition of the Fighting Irish.
Hey, we'll catch him. That's all right. That's thinking.
Since the first football game in 1887, winning has become a tradition for the Fighting Irish. Notre Dame football has gone through many eras, from the legacy of Newt Rockne, Frank Leahy, Ara Parsegian to the present, the beginning of the Faust era. It is Jerry Faust's first year as head coach of Notre Dame, and he has the monumental task of keeping the Irish tradition going.
You know, following such great people as Leahy, Parsegian, and Rockne, you know, and many others that have coached here, you know, it's a difficult task, but it's a fun task. I'm never going to be a Rockne. I'll never be able to give locker room speeches like him.
All those in favor of coming out for spring football, those who insist on having football, insist on having Hunk and Shavin, Vadish and I take charge of this spring, will all signify by saying aye.
Never going to be a Leahy that had 6 undefeated seasons. Never be a Parsegian that had the charisma that he had when he was there. Just Jerry Faust, but enjoyed being part of all those great coaches of the past, and just hope that I can continue to carry on what they've started and developed over the years.
Newt Rockne set the pace for all coaches to come at Notre Dame. His 13-year career accumulated 105 wins to 12 losses, 5 undefeated seasons, and 3 national championships. Rockne was also credited with coaching such greats as George Gipp, the Gipper, and the Four Horsemen, the most famous backfield in Notre Dame history. But with every new coach, a new era of excitement comes to Notre Dame, as is true with Coach Faust, and what has spread like wildfire throughout the campus.
Faust fevers, that's the enthusiasm he generates. People get hooked on him. It's kind of, he has charisma. They get hooked on his enthusiasm. He's kind of like a cheerleader himself, you could say.
I think he's a great guy. I mean, it's really surprising how much he's brought the university together.
Jerry Faust will be a legend, no doubt about it. He's amazing.
I think Faust fever is the way I would define the feeling you get when you're sitting in the stadium, you're in the student section, and everybody around you, the whole section is standing 3 feet off the bleachers. That's Faust fever.
I don't know why God has allowed me to have that dream come true. Maybe he feels that I need a tough task here on earth, or a tough thing, and or maybe he feels this is his job he wants me to do. You know, I just never question those things. I think a football coach has to be a lot more than X's and O's. I think that he has to really be concerned about his people. This is why I went in coaching in the first place. That's why I've been in Catholic education all my life, for I really believe in Catholicism as the primary reason that you should exist. I also believe that by teaching you can help other people get through problems, whether it's coaching or teaching in the classroom.
Father Jim Reilly is the chaplain for the football team.
And he's a very holy man personally, and it's not phony by any stretch of the imagination. He's a very, very holy man, and it's not done for effect. It's just the way the man is. And I think the impact that he's going to have on the campus is going to be certainly far-reaching over and above just the football team.
I think faith is an individual thing. You know, I think that each one has to. It's sort of private, you know. You know, it's. You don't want to be a hypocrite about it or anything like that. But I think it's the most important thing you have in life. And I've always felt sorry for people that didn't have a strong belief in God or Christianity or Supreme Being. I don't try to throw this down the player's throat. I do believe in having prayer in after practice and 4 games, not to win, but just to know that there's more important things than just football in this life. I want to teach them to block and tackle and win football games, but I also want them to come out of here from the University of Notre Dame 4 years from now a better person, not only intellectually, but as a person, ethically, religiously, and a love towards their fellow human being. The student body is really part of my family, you know, just like the football team is part of my family. I put a lot of hours in here, and my wife is just really great about it, so are my children. We have 1 meal a week that we have with the players that all the families invited. And that's Sunday night because we have meetings and we don't get home till 10:30 every night anyhow. I haven't eaten a meal with my family at home since 40, 50, 60 days, since August, first part of August. No matter how important your job is, most important thing you got is your family. And that's the toughest thing about coaching, in the aspect that you really don't have that much time to spend with your family. But if you spend it well, and if you spend it together, that's important.
Going inside of them.
We're going outside them, inside them, and outside them. And when we get them on the run once, we're going to keep them on the run. And we're not going to pass unless our secondary comes up too close. But don't forget, man, we're going to get them on the run. We're going to go, 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 go. And we aren't going to stop until we go to that goal line. Don't forget, man, today's the day we're going to win. They can't lick it, and that's out of the goal. The first whistle of the man win there. Fight, 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 fight. What do you say, man?
Even though the memories of Newt Rockne still dominate Notre Dame football, it seems that Faust fever has reached the campus, and another Notre Dame legend could be in the making.
Alice, Advent is a very special season for us Catholics because it's the season when we celebrate the coming of Christ among us and his birth.
But it's also only 1 month till Christmas, and it's a time when we start thinking about shopping and decorating and holiday cooking.
But before we go rushing into that, it's important that you really be careful to keep in focus the reason for Advent. The measure with which you celebrate Advent will be the happiness you bring to your Christmas.
Next week, we'll begin a look at cults in our society and meet a giant in the field of jazz. Our DABAR segment will feature Monsignor Minall with some thoughts on prayer. Thanks for being with us. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next week.
We surely have enjoyed it and look forward also with Alice to see you. Goodbye, and God bless you.